Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode and the last episode of season 1 of Capture the Culture Illustrated Masterclass with Lakeem. And today we have something pretty cool aligned coming up. In the past classes, I've taught you how to capture moments, drawing moments in time that captures the culture. I've taught you how to draw backgrounds, the proper way of looking at backgrounds and seeing how to block things in. We've discussed how to draw figure drawings from scratch without having to trace them. I've done classes on paper, but today is going to be something new. Today, I'll be showing you guys how to create a quick animation. Create animations in specifically using the Procreate app if you have it. If you don't have the Procreate app, you may be limited on how you can do this strategy, but I think following along, you can still learn a few tips and strategies on just composition and animation in general. So today, I found a random car. I found a car online that I thought was pretty cool, but it's also a block. It's also like a square shaped car. So it's something that can easily be transferred into an illustration. So this is going to be the car that we're going to be animating. And I'll be showing you guys step by step how to make this car look as if it is driving up the street or driving down a highway or whatever background setting you give it. So first thing first, I am going to change the opacity of the layer of the car, and we are just going to recreate the car. It's not going to be too complicated. We're literally just going to take the outline shapes of the car and recreate them. And that's why I chose this car, because it's almost like a simple box type of car. But it's also, pretty cool in a sense that it's I don't know, I want to say gangster. It kind of got like a cool vibe to it, like the old school 2-door car. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to take the car and block out the general shapes of it so that we can have a car to work with and animate later. Alrighty, so this part should be pretty simple for you guys. You can do this with any car. I'm keeping it quite simple. So when I do go in and add coloring things, I'm not going to add too much detail. I just want to have a car that I can use to show you guys how easy it is to transform a stagnant car into a moving animation. So let's see, this is the first step is, and you can use any car that you find online. You can even use cars that's already illustrated or drawn, or you can even, for this project, you can even use images of cars that already exist, and you can animate those as well, which that can be pretty interesting. But today, I'm just going to quickly knock out this car right here. So we have our tires, and I'm keeping the lines pretty loose. You don't really have to be too detailed, especially if you're getting into cartoons and animation production. Unless you're doing like 3D animation with like the rigs and things like that. I kind of like to keep most of my animation illustrations more on the simple side, because one, you don't want to overcomplicate the process, and when you're drawing animation, sometimes there's multiple frames that you have to recreate and reproduce. So you want to have an image that's not too complicated, something that you can easily replicate and duplicate. So if I had a fast forward button, I would fast forward this, but it's fairly quick to draw and capture the essence of it. So we have like the box headlights. Boom, headlights on this side. All right, there we go. Put like a middle line right here. All right. And we're gonna throw a few lines for the grill or the front of the car. And boom, this is going to be the gist of our car. And we're gonna throw those, like some rims on there or some inner tires. Boom, there we have it. Maybe we can do a door, make a line for the door handle. And let's see, for the inside of the car, let's just say that, let's give ourselves a character. Let's say this guy is driving right here. That's the driver of the car. Random guy with his hat on. This is like his arm holding the steering wheel. Nothing too complicated. And let's just kind of put his arm, let's say he has his arm sitting on the side of the vehicle like that. And, you know, he's going to be cruising up the street, and it's not a 6'4", but like the old school NWA Eazy-E song, cruising up the street in my 6'4". All right, so simple character, simple car, and we're going to put him in motion. So this is the car. This is the car that we have so far, like outline sketch of it. I think it's a tire back here. Let's see. Yeah, it's a tire that's like right under here. Boom. Now we're just going to fill in certain So now we have our car and our guy. Let's just block in a few colors. Like I said, we're going to keep it simple, not too complicated at all. So we have our tires here. Going to be like this grayish color. And put some wheels in there. Let's say that we have like some gold rims or so. And let's see, so when drawing images, I really love the idea of keeping things simple. Even though the car have some more complex elements, is really helpful as an artist to be able to know how to simplify complex illustrations or complex pictures and redraw them how that would be redrawing them for easy production. And that's pretty much what we're doing here. We took a car and we're recreating it. So let's see, what color do we want our car to be? Let's see, what's a cool color? Let's go with green. He's gonna have a green car. So, like I said, let's see. I just want to block in all of the colors of the car. Why is it? So if you're working on Procreate, the Procreate app, and when you're trying to drag your color in, sometimes the color spills out. That just means that there's some space in your illustration where the lines are not connecting. So you just kind of have to go find where that open point is and fill it in. I'm trying to find it. Maybe it's over here. Let's try again. Boom, there we go. Alrighty, so our car is coming along. I wanted to draw the car from scratch so you guys can see how simple it is to recreate a car. Let's just say it has the gold bumper or the gold chrome bumper up here in the front. And let's see, maybe this is a darker gold right here. And for the lights, we have like this sky blue for the headlights. Something simple. So now that we have that filled in, we're just going to fill in a little, all of the smaller areas like the license plates. Let's see. So this is probably once you get this part done, you have the majority of it out of the way. Fill in license plates, and we're just going to keep it blank. So there we go. We have our car. And look, let's continue to fill in the blanks. Inside the car, and usually when I'm drawing or creating designs, I like to recycle my colors. So a lot of times I just pull colors that I already have, and I'll either make it a smaller shade darker, or I'll just reuse the same colors that I was using. So like I'm gonna use the same purple from the tires, dark purple, to put for the inside the car. Um, Reusing your colors is very good to do as an illustrator. One, it simplifies your palette. So that if you ever think of getting into other, like using your pictures as a print or something different, you know, having a simplified palette really helps you save money when it comes to printing and things like that. But also it makes the process way less complicated to reproduce and recreate and redraw when you're working with a team of people that you have to share your designs with. So if you make your artwork too, specifically with like anime, super detailed, complex work sometimes. But on the same token, it's also super refreshing to see simplify their drawings as well. I don't like the purple hat. Let's just keep the hat same color as the shoe. We have a car with our character in the driver's seat. And the goal for today is we're going to transform this car to an anime car. We have our main subject. Now, the next step is to give our car layer on top. Rename and we're just going to say car. So the road, same thing. We're going to keep it.
So, sorry about that. We had some technical issues on Zoom, but we're back now, and hopefully you guys can hear me well and see me well. And we're just going to continue. We're just going to continue building on to the layers of our car and getting the animation down. So far, we have simple elements, and we're just building on to our background so that our car can drive on it. So boom, we have the car, and next we just want to continue the background. So a cool thing that I like, let's try and see what a black background looks like. Maybe not the best. I think we should go with, maybe we're going to make it nighttime. This is going to be a nighttime scene. And our car guy is going to be driving up the road at night. So, right now, I'm just filling in the small cracks. And for the most part, this is going to be our road that we use for the illustration. This is our car. So when you're doing this type of illustration, you just want to piece together all of your elements and make sure you have them present and available so that when you do start animating, it can be easy. As you see, like some of the elements are kind of like bleeding through, like on the front grill right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new layer behind the one that I have, and I want to make sure that there is nothing that's like bleeding through the background of my illustration. So on the layer that I just created behind the car, I'm going to draw out the shape of the car, which you probably can't see right now, but I'll show you guys. Alrighty. So I just drew out a random shape behind the car, and I'm just going to fill that shape in with a solid color. Boom. So now, I don't want to make it black because I want to be able to see the front of the car. So I'm going to change that color to gray. I don't think I want to make it gray because I don't want it to blend in with the back. So let's use this red color here. All right, I like the look of that. So now we've made sure that there's not any parts of the car that's transparent for when you're animating it. Although I do want the windows in the background to be like these windows here. I do want those to remain transparent because I want you to kind of be able to see things moving in the background as he's driving. So I'm just going to merge these two layers together so that they are one. All right, so now we have that. We have our car on the road. We have a simple background, which, I was kind of liking the purple, but let's make it daytime. Maybe yellow. Let's try yellow. Yellow skies. Yeah, I like the look of that. And with the skies, let's just add not too much detail, but we want to select our skies so that I know. And then I'm going to get the airbrush tool, and with the same color yellow, maybe I'll just make it a little bit more orangish. I'm just going to add like a cool gradient to the sky. Still nothing too complicated. I just wanted to simplify the skies and make it seem, like he's driving during the daytime or the late evening. All right, so how do we transform this car to where it looks like it's driving on the road? The first key to doing this is you want to make a new layer, and if you're using Procreate, this is where we start animating. So in Procreate, they have a button that you can switch on that's called Animation Assist. And what this does is it allows you to take the layers that you have that you're working on, and it pretty much breaks each layer into its own frame, its own keyframe. So what I want to do now is I am going to merge the car frame with the background. So now it's just one single frame. And on the animation layer, you're able to duplicate this layer so that there's multiple frames. So now at the bottom, you see that there's 2 frames of the same layer. And what we want to do is the first key strategy to making your car look like it's in motion is street lines. Adding street lines to the road will automatically shift the car to where it looks like it's moving. So at the bottom here, let's just put lines going all right. Before I do this, let's make it easy. I'm just going to have one line that's going from the back of the drawing to the front. And right now I'm going to, well, it looks like the 2 layers or the pictures are kind of merged or transparent. That's because it's showing the background. If you want to get rid of that effect, you could just turn off the onion skin. But I kind of want to keep it on because I want to see where I'm drawing my lines on the picture. So I drew one line here, and I'm going to draw another line that's pretty much parallel to it. And from there, I want to fill this line all the way in with solid color. And what we wanted to do now is I'm going to duplicate what we just created. So now I have this layer on the top and a layer on the bottom. And so ultimately, these lines are going to be a part of the image. But right now, you just kind of see them floating on top of it. So what I want to do is the parts where I know that the car is going to be on top of this line. So I'm going to erase the parts of the line that intersecting with the car, because the car is driving on top of the line, so we won't be able to see them. So boom, we have that erased. Next, once we have that, once we have it to where the car is on top of the line, I want to duplicate my line layer. And I'm just going to rename it to number 1, and then the layer on top, let's see, not 1S, but 1. And then the layer on top, we're going to name it number 2. So we have line number 1 and line number 2. For line number 1, right, I'm going to erase, I'm going to take this line and I'm just erasing space in between. Like, just imagine how, the distance between the lines that's on the road. I'm just kind of erasing that space in between, like giving it space all the way down to the end of the road. So boom, it looks like there are street lines now. That's number 1. So for number 2, I want to do the same thing, but I'm doing the opposite lines of what we just created. So we have these lines are number 1. So for number 2, I'm gonna turn off animation assist right now, so it won't so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so let's see what we just did. So this is line number 1. What I want to do now is take line number 2, and I'm just putting the opacity down, and I'm erasing the opposite of what I just did on line number 1. So now I'm going to erase these lines instead, so they can be stagnating. So in line number 2, you probably can't see it all the way because I'm erasing on top of the drawing, but you'll see what I'm doing after I've erased it all the way. So pretty much I've erased the lines to where, all right, they're stagnating. So if you're looking at my layers over here, just pay attention to what I'm doing with my layers on the right. I took line number 1 and I'm merging it on top of that image, and I'm taking lines from number 2 and merging them on top of the second image right there. So pretty much I just placed my lines onto the road. So hopefully it's not too confusing, but now let's turn on our animation assist. And once you push play, it looks like the lines are moving forward, like moving back and forward. So that's the first step of the illusion of your car traveling on the road, because now it looks like he's driving past the lines at a super fast pace. All right, so we have step 1 down, and what I want to do now is I kind of want to warp the car to where it looks like it's actually on the road. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just tracing the car so that I can kind of distort it. Let's see, I'm just going to lower it back a little bit, and boom. So now we've given our car movement. Just by changing the shape just slightly, and since I've changed the shape, I want to refill in the part that we just moved around and modified. So now, let me show you guys after. So once you modify and move the shape around, you just want to fill in. I'm just filling in the shape that I moved around. So now when I push play, it kind of looks like the car is moving in space, or kind of shaking. A little more dramatic than I would want, but I think it's cool. So I'm filling in the parts that I moved around, just refilling in the shapes. So great. With just two simple images of the same car and modifying them a little bit, we've already made steps to having our car looking like it's moving in space. All right, so what next? Another strategy that I like to do is, now that we have this main sequence of the car moving, right? We need to give our tires the illusion that they're spinning, and we want to give the illusion that there's light kind of reflecting on the car as it's driving up the road. So how we're going to do that is, now that we have those core layers, I'm going to duplicate, and if you can see at the bottom here, I duplicated my layer, and the one that I duplicated, I'm just going to move it to the back of my second layer. Then I'm going to duplicate my second layer and move it to the back of that one. So now I have 4 layers that's repeating themselves instead of 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I like the car bouncing, but I kind of want to make it more subtle. So without me having to cut the car and like reshape it, I'm going to use the liquefy tool and just kind of move around some of the elements of the car so that it isn't bouncing so much to where it's distracting. So here we go. I'm just kind of lowering the roof a little bit to where hopefully it helps it. All right, that's a little better. So automatically we have motion. The next strategy is the lighting effect. The reason why we duplicated the layers at the bottom, and what I'm going to do, we know that the first 2 layers is just the street. It's the same thing, just the lanes of the street moving. So I want to duplicate the first and second layer again. So I duplicated it, and I'm going to drag that to the back. Then the second one, I want to duplicate it again, drag it to the back. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames of the same thing repeating itself, pretty much. But now, in the 6 frames, I want to have a streak of light that goes from the front of the car to the back. So actually, we're going to do it one more time. We're going to have 8 frames. So I duplicate the first one, put it at the back, duplicate the second one, put it at the back. I like working with 8 frames because a lot of things work off 8 counts, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So having 8 frames, it's pretty cool to work with. So now I'm opening my layers. This is a special effect that you guys, hopefully if it's not too complicated, you can catch on pretty quick. So what I'm going to do now is take a lighter layer. You can use white as well. And in my layers, as you can see to the right, I'm taking the car and pretty much I'm going to draw out a shape above the car. And it's going to make sense once it's all done. But I drew a random shape and I'm filling it in. And it almost looked like like the car ran through a patch of snow or something. And I placed it on the front of the car. And what I like doing is taking that layer and changing the opacity to, maybe like 40% or so. And once you have that layer, once you've created that snow patch is what we're going to call it effect. We're going to call it a transparent snow patch. You just want to take it and merge it down to the layer that's below it. So now it looks like there's a like a transparent like water almost on the front of the car. And we're going to repeat this same process all the way through. But what's going to give it the special effect is, you know, the first one started at the front of the car. You want to gradually move that shape or that blob up the car as you progress through the frames. So the first blob kind of started at the front of the car. Now we want to do the same thing, but it's moving up a little bit more. It's moving a little bit more up the car now. And you want to take that layer. I want to make it 40% opacity or 39%. And same thing, merging it with the layer below it. So now you see that you have the front of the car and it moves kind of a little gradually back. And let's do it again. So now we're on the third layer. And notice we're only working with 8 layers. So keeping the layers simple, you know, you can start getting more complex as you build on the simplicity of things. So same thing. I'm going to create a random shape again, but I'm going to move it up a little bit more, maybe to the door right here. Sometimes I like putting little splashes or random. You can make this shape organic. It's really mainly about the fact that the shape is moving forward or moving up the car. That's going to give the illusion of forward motion, or it's going to give the illusion that the car is driving past lights. And so this is a cool strategy that you can use. And like I said, this is a super simple illustration, but this same rule applies even if you're using like complex illustrations, like a super detailed car or something. You can do the same type of effect, and it'll make it seem like the car is driving past lights. So let's keep going. I'm gonna go to the layer after it. Add a layer on top, and let's see, we just want to create. I'm gonna kind of put a light on the roof. And if you need to gauge and kind of see where you stopped your last one, you can do that. So this one is about around right here. So it doesn't have to be super like fleshed out, or I'm just using random shapes that's going along the car. So we're going to change it to 40% again and merge it down to the layer that's below it. There we go. So far it looks like the shape is traveling up the car, right? So let's go all the way to the back of the car. And I usually like to do this, like we're working with 8 layers right now. I usually like to do this between 5 and 6 layers, so it can give the back 2 layers some breathing room. Because what's going to happen is once you put it on the loop, if you don't leave space, like if you make the shadow go all through all 8 loops, it's not going to leave space to where it looks like the light is passing. if that makes sense. So let's finish our. So right now we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna try to make this fifth one cover the rest of the car. So you want to, again, take the back of the car. Let's just say this is all the way to the back. And I just want to fill in that shape. Change the opacity to 40% and merge that layer down. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That leaves me with 3 layers that doesn't have this light effect. So now it looks like your car is driving super fast up the road and the lights are going through. And right now it's super fast. You can change your frames per second so they can drive slower. And I like putting it on 8 frames because we're working with 8 frames and it just makes it slow. It slows it down a little bit more. You can either go slower. So the least frames per second you have, the slower the animation will go. Because it's pretty much saying that frames per second just mean in 1 second is going through 5 frames right here, opposed to in 1 second doing 22 frames or 20 frames. Of course, 20 frames in 1 second is going to be way faster than like 5 frames. So that's how you gauge your speed. So boom, there's one strategy. And as you can see, we're already making progress on the car looking like it's driving up the road. So what's another strategy that we can do? This is another favorite of mine. And this one is simple. You don't even have to add you don't have to add any new layers. I like to take my pen tool and following the same concept, we want to start front of the car and work our way to the back. So with this one, I like to just add random white highlights going along the car as the frames progress. So as you can see, I'm just drawing random lines on the front of the car, and we wanted to make it seem like these lines are traveling to the back of the car as it's going. So we start at the front, and in the next frames we want to push them back just a little bit further. In the next frame, maybe it's like right here, and it's pretty fun to just make them organic lines. Sometimes I throw random shapes in there, but the goal, what we're capturing is that every layer of lines that we put, as the frames go in time, they're moving back in space. So as you can see, boom, I'm going to make more lines like right here, maybe going along the roof here, catches the guy, and then now it's closer to the back of the car, and then maybe at the very end it just fades off like that. So now you can see that, it's pretty cool how the layers follow along with the car. So now it's looking like we're moving. Now we have to attack the wheels. The wheels still look pretty stagnant. Like, how do we make the wheels to where they seem like they're moving in space? Alrighty, let's do the wheels. With the wheels, I like to blur out the wheels, because if a car is moving, you don't really see the detail of the wheels that much. Like, you can't tell that it has like rims or the spokes and things. So the first thing you do, or what I like to do, is just take my smudge tool and blur out the wheels. And then I do that with each layer. And this is something you could do in the beginning as well. Like, you can start off blurring out the wheels. Preferably, I probably should have did this when it was 2 layers, but it's cool. It's cool because now that I'm doing it with all the layers, it's going to kind of be slightly different every time. So it's going to look like the wheels are moving in space with the car. Or it's going to kind of look like the wheels are rotating. Hopefully, that's the goal. So I'm just taking the layers for the wheels and blurring out the inner rim part. And we're going to show you what it looks like after, so you can see why I'm doing this. And it's okay if it gets crazy. I'm just blurring out the rims and the tires because we want to have a cool effect of them moving. So, all right, now it kind of looks like our wheels are turning. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It looks like the wheels are turning, but not all the way. I'm not all the way sold that they're really turning. It's kind of like they're blurry. A way that we can drive it home even more is this simple thing that I do, which is 2 little tick marks on the opposite ends of each other. So I put tick marks right there, and then on the next layer, I take those same tick marks, but I move them down a little bit, and they're always going to be opposite of each other. So let's turn on onion skin. So for those who are new to animation, let's talk about a few logistics, right? Onion skin just means that you're able to see the frames that's behind what you just created. Onion skin opacity. How much of the background drawing do you want to see? So onion skin allows you to see the past layers that you did, so that it'll be easier for you to duplicate them. So with my tick marks, you can put them in the same places. So on this 3rd layer, I want to put my tick mark back where the other one was at. It was about right there. And then you just want to keep alternating them. And what this is going to do is add to the effect that the wheel is actually rotating. And it's very subtle. Like I said, I like simple. We want to keep it simple. But with things like this, you can definitely, even with more complex illustrations, you can do the same effect. So now let's check out. All right, now it looks like our wheels are kind of turning in motion. But what if you're still not sold? Here's another thing you can do. With the same effect, I'm going to use a lighter color here, maybe like yellow. We want to give the idea that the wheels are really turning. So what I like to do is, it's a strategy of, I haven't gave it a name. I guess it's the spinning wheel strategy. So I do these organic lines on the wheels. And then every time the wheel, every frame, I kind of move that organic line over some. So it looks like it's rotating. As you can see, I started right here at the top. Turn it just slightly, turn it slightly, and let's do it again. We're just going to keep turning the direction of this line slightly until we get to the end. So what this should do is hopefully give us even more of the effect that the wheel is moving. And eventually, as you keep turning the line, the wheel, it should meet back up where it started. Boom. So now it really looks like the wheels are turning, because you can kind of see that they're moving. So these are some elements of the animation that, although the car isn't moving at all, it looks like the road, it looks like it's driving up the road, and it's kind of moving, it looked like it's driving up the road, just with a few additional elements that you can add to the car. So how do we continue to drive home the fact that the car is driving? What I like to do is add like gravel. Let's see, I'm gonna use like a random color. Gravel is always fun because you just want to take the tires. It's pretty much just simple dots that I put behind the tires to make it seem like that they are like kicking up the gravel from the road. So to get a closer up, so all I'm doing to create gravel is adding random dots behind the tires. These side tires over here. And even this tire back here as well. And what this does is give the effect that, oh man, it looks like he's moving fast, or the dirt is just kicking up as the tires are spinning. And it's super loose. That's the cool thing about animation is you don't have to be so detailed to drive the point home or to get the illusion of movement. I think sometimes artists just have to study the mechanics of movement. And even in most instances, when you're able to master simplicity, it gives the dopest effects. So let's see what happens once we add like the gravel. All right. It looks like he's trucking up the road. So that's the strategy for animation. Let's say, well, it looks cool, but the background is just still stagnant. Like, it looks like he's driving up the road, but the background is so stagnant, you still can't really tell. Another strategy, I like to, and with this, you can definitely play with different effects. We haven't got into like putting buildings in the background or things like this. We're just focusing on animating the car. But another element that that drives home the fact that the car is moving is sometimes I like to add light poles that's moving in the background. So with understanding that it's only 8 frames that I'm working with right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I like to choose maybe like the 4 middle frames. And I'm just going to put we're going to call this a light pole. Let's see. I'll just make a bigger line. Go with simplicity. Alright, that's cool. It's a big light pole right here. So let's just say that's our light pole. And since he's moving so fast, the light pole is an element that you can add to your animation to drive home the fact that he's moving in space. So right here, the light pole is entering into the frame. In the next frame, we want to make it seem as if the light pole is just like he is driving past the light pole at a fast pace. So let's just say it goes from here to here. And then from there, we want it to, we do have to keep in mind of perspective. So I actually need to keep in mind of perspective. So understand that due to the laws of perspective, this light pole should be going like this, in this type of angle, right? So I need to keep that in mind when I'm drawing my next light pole, that is probably going to be this tall instead of the same height as the first one. And then as it goes down or through space and time, it's going to get shorter. And since it's going behind the car, we're just going to leave it like that. And once it gets to the very back, it'll probably be way shorter than, and now it's out the frame. So now we just added a element that he's passing up. So that really drives home the fact that he's driving on the car or driving up a road. Because now you can see him passing up the light pole, which the light pole is probably the reflection of the light that's on the car itself. So now it's more realistic to see and believe. So now these are the core elements that shows that he's driving, and that's pretty much it. Like, it's always fun when I do car animations, and hopefully those who are watching learn something dope from this. The very last thing we're going to do is we're just going to turn his headlights on. So since he's moving in space, since the car is actually not really moving, I'm going to create this shape in the front. And let's see, I want to put the opacity all the way down to maybe like 20. But I just created as an area where the lights will be shining. So I blocked it out. And I'm just going to use my airbrush tool, and I'm going to lower the opacity to about 20%. And with my airbrush tool, I'm just going layer by layer and pretty much adding light to the ground to where it looks like he's traveling up the road. These are just extra elements that you can add to your animation so now that it looks like, his headlights are on. And they are beaming on the ground. Alrighty. So let's see. See? So now that's pretty cool. And then the very final thing to really push the bar higher is pretty much right now at this point, if you made it this far, you can follow along. You have a solid animation of a car that's driving up the road. It's passing up an element. And that element don't have to be a light pole. You can make it like a fire hydrant, or you can make it a person walking, but it's just having an element in the background that's passing by faster, having elements reflecting on the car to make it look like it's light that's being passed by. And then for your wheels, you want to give the effect that your wheels are spinning. So I showed you guys those tips. And now to really drive it home, I just found a random, I'm using a brush tool that has texture. And what we want to do now is just give texture to the ground. So our ground is already this purplish color. All I'm doing is taking the color that's already on the ground, and I'm going to select the color so I won't have to draw on other parts. And you pretty much just want to give texture to the ground. So I'm selecting ground as I go, adding the brush tool, and boom, just adding these random textures. And pretty much every time you add a texture, it's going to be different. And that's what we want. We want the textures to be different so that on each frame, it's going to look like there's movement to the roads, because each frame is going to be the same texture, but it's going to be slightly different. So adding texture to the ground, I'm selecting the sidewalk. There we go. Select the sidewalk and add texture. All right, and you want to do this for all the frames. Select the sidewalk, then add texture. And you can use any type of texture for this. It should work. It should still give the illusion of movement. Alrighty, select, add texture. You have 2 more frames to go. Select, add texture, select, and add more textures. All right. So now it looks like the ground is moving as he's moving in space. So that helps drive home the fact that, oh man, this guy is really riding up the road, and it's an infinite loop. So all under 8 frames, it looked like it's infinitely, he's like driving up this long road that's never ending. And very last thing, and we're going to wrap up the class because I know I said that 100 times, but you know, the basics of it is you could just animate the street and the car. You know, the street lines with the car already drives home the fact that he's moving. So all the other supporting elements is just you convincing the viewer that, oh, he's really moving. So the last thing I like to do is pretty much just add like almost like airlines. I don't know what to name them. They don't really have technical names, but I just like to add streaks, like air streaks, to emphasize the speed that he's moving in. So pretty much all I'm doing is taking like a thin brush tool and just adding these random streaks behind the car. And this really just adds to the illusion that he's driving super fast. Because you can see the streaks just kind of flying behind him as he's driving. There we go. Now he's a man on a mission that's driving 100 miles per hour up the road. And that's pretty much it for this class. I wanted to show you guys how an introduction to animation. And I was like, what better way to introduce you guys to animation by having a car driving up the road. So hopefully there are some tips that you took away from this to show you basic mechanics of animation. And I just really want you to know that you can do these, you can really grasp great effects with the most simplistic strategies and tips. So this concludes this episode of Capture the Culture Illustrated Masterclass, the animation edition. I really look forward to teaching you guys more things and more strategies and tips on that you can apply to your illustration life, as well as different strategies and tips that you can use that captures the culture and captures the culture that you want to tell stories about in your artwork in a way that's more impactful and empowering to your viewers. So, without further ado, thanks for stopping by and listening, and I hope you have a great day.